Can I tell you something that I wish someone would have said to me a lot sooner? If your business is exhausting you, if you're working harder than ever and somehow still not getting ahead, there's a very good chance the problem isn't you. It's not your discipline. It's not your mindset. It's not that you just need to push through a little more. The problem might be your business model, specifically a business model that was never actually designed to sustain you. And I know that's a lot to land on before I even welcomed you to the show. So let's talk about it. When you're growing a community, here's the thing nobody warned you about. Getting members in is one challenge. Keeping them there without running yourself into the ground is a completely different one. Welcome to Community at Heart, where we get honest about what it really takes to build a membership business that lasts. We're talking retention over reach, systems over stress, and building spaces that people genuinely want to show up for, including you. I'm Rachel Starr, former wedding planner, recovering people pleaser, and someone who learned the hard way that doing it all yourself isn't a growth strategy. It's just exhausting. I'm a Circle certified partner and founder of the Co-Creator Society, and I help membership leaders go from overwhelmed to magnetic, attracting members who stay, pay, and invite their friends without it costing you your energy or your sanity. Each week, I'm bringing you practical strategies, real conversations, and the behind-the-scenes truth about growing a community without sacrificing your nervous system. So pull up a chair, grab your coffee or sweet tea, and let's get into it. Welcome back, friends. Here's what I see happen all the time. A founder has been in business for a couple of years. They've got clients, they've got revenue. Things look fine from the outside. But on the inside, they're running on fumes. They're tired in a way that a weekend off doesn't fix. They're quietly wondering if this is just what building a business feels like, or if something is actually wrong. And when I start asking questions about their offer stack, their income model, what the day-to-day actually looks like, feels like, the picture becomes clear pretty fast. They built something that requires them to be the engine of everything all the time, indefinitely. And the reason they're exhausted isn't because they lack discipline or grit. It's because the model they built was never designed for a person to run long term. It was designed to generate revenue. And the question of whether a human being could sustain it for more than 2 years without falling apart, nobody asked that. That might sound like a specific problem, but I promise you, it's not rare. It's one of the most common things I encounter in my work. Founders who are competent, committed, and doing really amazing work, who are also quietly drowning. And the thing they all have in common isn't a lack of skill or effort. It's that their model has a structural flaw that no amount of working harder is going to fix. So today we're talking about the business model patterns that break founders, why they're so common, and why it's not your fault that you ended up here. Let's jump in. The first pattern is the one-to-one trap. And I want to be careful here. One-to-one work is not bad. Done for you services, coaching, consulting. That work is valuable. Deep relationships, meaningful results. There is absolutely a place for it. But when one-to-one work is your only model, when every dollar that comes in is attached to your direct time and energy, that's when it becomes a problem. Because what you've built is a job, just one you always have to run the admin for. The ceiling on that model is your own capacity. You can only serve so many people. You can only take so many calls. And when you're tapped out, the business stalls. Because you are the business. Here's what that looks like in real life. You fill your roster. You get referrals. People love your work, and then you hit a wall. You can't take on more clients without burning out. You can't raise your rates fast enough to compensate for the ceiling on your hours. You're tired, but you also can't slow down because the revenue stops the moment you do. And God forbid if you get sick. The trap is what the obvious answer seems like. Just raise your rates, take fewer clients, make the same money, work less. And yes, pricing matters. I'm not saying it doesn't, but even at significantly higher rates, if your only model is time for money, you are still capped. You are still one bad month or one slow referral season away from a revenue problem. The ceiling isn't your pricing, it's the structure. The second pattern is the launch hamster wheel. And if you've been in online business for any length of time, you know this one. You create an offer, build the hype, launch it, hit your goal, or you don't. Cart closes, you exhale for approximately 4 days, and then you realize you need to do it all over again because the revenue from that launch has to carry you until the next one. So you plan the next launch and the one after that, and before long, your entire business is built around the energy of launching. The problem is when a launch is the only way you generate meaningful revenue. Because what that means is your income is inconsistent. Your nervous system is permanently in feast or famine mode. And there's no version of that model where you can actually rest without financial consequences. I've talked to founders who are really great at launching. They've got the audience, the list, the copy. They can pull off a solid launch. But they'll tell you that they feel like they're always either in a launch or recovering from one. And here's the detail I think it's underestimated. Launches aren't free, even when they're free. They've got the content creation, the email sequences, the live events, the tech setup, the onboarding. And then there's the emotional cost, the highs when it's going well, the anxiety when the numbers dip, the deflation when the cart closes and it wasn't quite what you hoped. That compounds. Launches can be part of a healthy model. They cannot be the whole model. The third pattern is one people feel quietly embarrassed about, which is exactly why I want to name it the free everything model. It usually starts from a real place of generosity. You want to provide value, build trust, give before you ask. So you start giving free content, free resources, free communities, free challenges, free DM advice. And none of that is wrong. Free value has a role. But what happens for a lot of founders is that it never converts. They're producing enormous amounts of free content. They've got an audience. People tell them all the time how helpful they are, but the revenue doesn't follow. People consume the free stuff and disappear. And here's what I've seen consistently in my own work and in the work I do with founders building communities. Free communities have an attention problem. When membership costs nothing, people treat it accordingly. Not because they're ungrateful, that's just human psychology. We prioritize the things we've invested in. We show up for things that we have skin in the game attached. And I am a big advocate for the $1 trial strategy. And I know that sounds almost too simple. Why would a dollar change anything? Because even the smallest financial commitment shifts behavior. It shifts who joins, it shifts how serious they take the space. It signals that this is not a free resource, it's a community worth being in. Free attracts people who want free things. A paid community, even at a low entry point, attracts people who actually want what you're offering. And the broader point here is this the free everything model breaks people because you're working at full capacity and the return doesn't match the output. Generosity without a sustainable structure is just overgiving with a good story. The fourth pattern is the founder bottleneck. This one can be hard to see when you're inside it because it often looks like productivity. You are not just doing the work, you are the decision maker, the content creator, the customer service department, the tech support, the community host, the email writer, and the one person who needs to be involved in every single piece of everything for the business to keep moving. Every task runs through you. Every question comes to you. Every piece of content requires you. What that means is the business cannot move faster than you can personally process. The growth ceiling isn't your audience size or your marketing, it's your bandwidth. And the reason founders end up here isn't because they're controlling, it's because they built the business reactively. They said yes to what was in front of them, they figured things out as they went, they made decisions that made sense in the moment. And now they're the center of something that cannot function without them. That's exhausting in a specific way that's hard to describe because it's not just the work, it's the weight of knowing that if you slow down, if you get sick, if you have a bad week, everything slows down with you. There's also something that happens psychologically in this pattern that I think is worth naming. The founder who's holding everything often starts to feel resentful, not of her members, not of her clients, but of the business itself. The thing she built with so much intention starts to feel like it's working against her. She can't step back from it. She can't grow it without adding more of herself to it. And somewhere in there, the original reason she built it, the freedom, the meaning, the impact starts to get buried under the sheer weight of keeping it running. That's not a burnout problem. That's a design problem, my friend. You're not running a business, you're keeping one alive. And there's a difference. So here's the part I want you to hear. None of this is your fault. I really, truly mean that. The models I just described aren't the result of bad decisions or being naive. They're the results of following the advice that was available. Think about what most of us were taught early on. Book clients, fill your roster, get to consistent revenue, launch things, build an audience, hustle while you're building so you can rest later. And we did that. We implemented, we followed the roadmap, but the information that was missing from all that advice, the part that would have actually protected us, was here's what this model costs you 5 years from now. Here's the ceiling you're building towards. Here's what happens to your health and your energy and your relationships when this is the only structure you have. That part was never in the training. We were taught how to generate revenue. We were not taught how to build it for sustainability. And here's the thing, the business models that break people tend to be the ones that get the most airplay. The fully booked service provider, the six-figure launch, those are the case studies. Those are the screenshots. What we don't see is what those models look like 18 months in. The frayed relationships, the founders on a Saturday afternoon wondering if this is actually what she wanted, or if she wandered so far from her original vision that she's lost the thread. We don't talk about that part, which means the people living in it feel like they're doing something wrong, like everyone else figured it out, which makes the exhaustion worse because now it's also shameful. So let me say this plainly. The burnout that comes from a broken business model is incredibly common. It is not a sign that you don't have what it takes. It's a sign that you followed advice that was optimized for a short-term outcome instead of a long-term one. That's not information gap, not a character flaw. What does a different model actually look like? I'm not going to give you a formula because there isn't one that's right for every founder. But here's what I know from models that actually sustain people. They include reoccurring revenue. Whether that's a membership, a retainer, a subscription, something where the income doesn't require a brand new sale every single month. Reoccurring revenue isn't just a financial strategy, it's genuinely a mental health strategy. It changes how you think, it changes the decisions you make, it gives you a floor that doesn't disappear the moment you stop pushing. And I want to say this clearly, reoccurring revenue doesn't mean you have to build a massive community or create endless content. It can be a small number of clients on a retainer. It can be a membership with 100 members. It can be something right-sized that fits your business and your life. Sustainable models also have leverage. Leverage means your time isn't the only thing delivering value. There's something else in the model, a community, a resource, a system that's working even when you're not actively in it. You can be offline. You can have a slow week. The value is still there, being experienced by your members without requiring your real-time energy. And sustainable models are built for the long game. The decisions that go into them are made asking, can I do this in 2 years, in 5? Is this something a real person can actually sustain? That's a different question than, I can make this work right now, and it leads to very different answers. I also want to say something about community specifically because it lives at the intersection of all three of these things. A well-built paid community creates recurring revenue. It's money that shows up every month without a brand new launch. It creates leverage. The community itself delivers value through pure connection, which doesn't require you to be on every day. And it's inherently long game because communities compound over time. The longer members stay, the more value they generate for each other, which makes the community better, which keeps members longer. That's not an accident. That's architecture. And it's a very different engine than a client roster that empties when clients leave, or a launch that works until it doesn't. Here's what I want you to sit with this week. Not homework, not a framework to implement, just one question. Is my business designed for where I want it to be in 2 years, or is it just designed to survive this month? That's it. And I've found that sitting with it honestly, without the pressure to immediately fix anything, surfaces a whole lot of clarity. Because sometimes we already know the answer. We've known for a while. We just haven't given ourselves permission to say it out loud. Well, friend, consider this your permission. Changing a business model doesn't have to be dramatic. You don't blow everything up and start over. You start building the next layer alongside what you're already doing. You make one decision at a time, you test something smaller. The founder who's trapped in a full client roster doesn't have to empty it overnight. You can start by deciding what she wants the model to look like in 18 months and make small decisions that move towards that. Maybe that's piloting one reoccurring offer. Maybe it's capping client intake at a number that leaves her room to build something else. Maybe it's finally running that workshop she's been sitting on to see if there's demand for something bigger. The point isn't to have it all figured out before you start moving. The point is to start moving with some intention behind it, instead of just reacting to whatever's loudest. And I'll say this. It's a lot easier to figure out when you're not doing it alone. One of the most expensive things about being in a broken model is that you're usually inside it in isolation, not in rooms with other founders who are navigating the same transition, not getting real feedback on the decisions you're making. That's what Co-Creator Society is for. We're a paid community for founders who are building community-led businesses and memberships. We take it seriously. We have live events, hot seats, workshops, and a real group of people who are in the same work you're in. Not a course to consume, a space where you think alongside other founders who get it. If you want to be in that room, head to Co-Creator Society. The link is in the show notes. And if this episode resonated and you want to go deeper, I write about all of this over on the Community at Heart Substack. Each week, I go beyond the episode, share what I'm thinking about, what I'm seeing in the communities I work with, and the things that don't always make it into the podcast. The link for that is in the show notes too. All right, friends, until next week. Bye.